Good evening and welcome to the Village of Riverside Board of Trustees regular meeting of Thursday, June 18th, 2026. Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Marshallska?
Here.
Trustee Gallagher?
Here.
Trustee Koss?
Here.
Trustee Evans? Here. Trustee Mateo?
Here.
Trustee Fitzgerald?
Here.
President Pollock?
Here.
Manager Francis? Here. Attorney Pickrell?
Here.
Also present, Clerk Stenzel.
President's report. Tonight, I have the opportunity and the privilege of nominating two people to serve on our committees. One is Emily Hanson to serve on our Planning and Zoning Commission, and the other is Tim Brodeur to serve on our Riverside Historical Commission. I'd like a motion and a second to appoint those residents to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Riverside Historical Commission.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Marshallska?
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher?
Aye.
Trustee Koss?
Aye.
Trustee Evans?
Aye.
Trustee Mateo?
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Thank you. And Clerk Stenzel, would you like to affirm our Planning and Zoning Commission member?
If you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Emily Hanson, do
I-
solemnly swear
I, Emily Hanson, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
and I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
of Planning and Zoning Commissioner
of Planning and Zoning Commissioner
for the Village of Riverside, Illinois,
for the Village of Riverside, Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then I will have you sign.
That was easier than my wedding vows.
Thank you.
I like that. Thank you, everyone.
And our other appointment, Tim Brodeur, will be sworn in at a later date. He had another appointment this evening. I want to make an acknowledgement and extend congratulations to the Riverside Brookfield Landmark and staff reporter Stella Brown for their outstanding achievements at the 2026 Illinois Press Association Best of the Press Awards. The Landmark was recognized as the third best weekly newspaper in Illinois in the mid-circulation category. They earned a total of 11 honors for excellence in local journalism. Additionally, Stella Brown, who covers Riverside, received first place recognition for government beat reporting for her coverage of Brookfield's proposed dispensary initiative, while the paper's ongoing coverage of the Brookfield Shops redevelopment was also recognized. These awards reflect the Landmark's commitment to community-focused journalism and Stella's dedication to providing fair, accurate, and comprehensive coverage of issues that matter to Riverside and Brookfield residents. So thank you, Landmark, and thank you, Stella. We have upcoming meetings, and before I go over the upcoming meetings, I want to mention that the Village Board of Trustees regular meeting scheduled for July 16th has been canceled. The board will convene next on August 20th, beginning with a committee of the whole meeting at 4:30, followed by the regular meeting at 6:30. Given that length of time, we have a whole bunch of intervening meetings of village committees and commissions. June 22nd, Parks and Recreation Board regular meeting, Riverside Public Library, 6:30 p.m. June 24th, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, 27 Riverside Road, Room 4, 6:30 PM, Village Hall. July 8th, Economic Development Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. July 14th, Board of Police and Fire Commissioners regular meeting, Quincy Street Community Center, 6:30 PM. July 14th, Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. July 20th, Riverside Historical Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. July 22nd, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. July 23rd, Police Pension Board regular meeting, Village Hall, Village Hall, 1 PM. That's the Police Pension Board regular meeting of July 23rd. July 27th, Parks and Recreation Board regular meeting, Riverside Public Library, 6:30 PM. August 3rd, Riverside TV Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. August 11th, Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. August 13th, Preservation Commission regular meeting, Village Hall, 6:30 PM. August 20th, Village Board of Trustees Committee of the Whole regular meeting, Quincy Street Community Center, 4:30 PM. And that same day, August 20th, the Village Board will have our regular meeting here at the Village Hall at 6:30 PM. I also wanted to mention some upcoming events ongoing throughout the summer is the Farmers Market every Wednesday from 2:30 to 7 PM. I also want to announce or make people aware, as I think everyone is, of our July 3rd and 4th events. July 3rd is a concert in the park from 5:30 to 10 PM in Guthrie Park. And then the morning of July 4th kicks off with the 5K race from 7:30 to 8:50 AM. And then also on July 4th, after the 5K race, is the festival in the park, 10 AM to 1 PM. And the parade's in there somewhere too, right?
Yes.
So the parade starts at,
It starts at approximately 8:30, so it's right in between the 5K and the festival in the park.
festival in the park, and that's on July 4th. It's a special July 4th weekend, one, because it's a Friday, Saturday, which is always nice. And also, it's America 250. Thanks to the township for this. So we are celebrating 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That concludes my president's report. Manager Francis. I'm sorry, trustee reports. Are there any trustee reports this evening?
Yeah,
Trustee
just a
Gallagher.
reminder that next weekend will be a very busy weekend here in town, much like last weekend with Slow Roll, the concert in the park, and 2 days of fantastic Raw. Next Saturday is the 10th annual regatta. It will have a very patriotic theme, so I would encourage anyone who wants to participate to do so, and anyone who wants to spectate should do so at the Union Bridge, probably sometime after 11:30 or so. And then also that night, Knights of Columbus will have their 250 stakeout. And if you haven't gotten tickets, you can get that from the Knights of Columbus Facebook page. And I will hold off on 9B later on. I don't want to steal that thunder, but
Okay,
I won't mention anything more just yet.
thank you. Any other trustee reports? Manager Francis, manager's report.
Thank you. I have 2 items that I just wanted to remind the residents of. Village offices are closed tomorrow in observance of Juneteenth, and village offices are also closed on July 3rd in observance of Independence Day. I also wanted to recognize a few staff members on their work anniversaries. Jeff Miller, who is now our deputy police chief. He's been with the village for 23 years. Carl Choate, our community service officer. He's been with the village for 5 years. And Yvette Zavala, our finance director. She has been with the village for 3 years. Finally, I wanted to thank Director Buckley for conducting tours with various engaged residents and press. And there will be more dates that will be released soon. They were very popular, they filled up quickly, and so we will continue to have tours over the next several months and continue to engage residents. And we also have representatives from Williams Architects, which is later on the agenda, to talk about some of that feedback that we've received thus far. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone wanting to address the board on a village matter that is not on the agenda now has the opportunity to do so. Is there anyone in the audience who would? Yes, sir. Please state your name and the matter on which you're here, and please keep your comments to 3 to 5 minutes.
My name is, excuse me, my name is Pedro Rodriguez, Pedro Rodriguez. Good evening, first of all. I am here, obviously, as a resident of Riverside, speaking tonight to address the lack of direct communication centering on penalty fees for first-time vehicle sticker purchasers and the subsequent lack of understanding from village officials. I recently learned that residents were required to purchase vehicle stickers through a letter in the mail. This was the first time I have ever received a letter of this kind. The letter stated that I had to purchase a sticker for each of my cars by June 15th. Didn't mention anything about penalty fees. On Thursday, June 11th, I called the number provided in the letter and spoke to someone who mentioned first-time buyers have to purchase these in person. Luckily, I had a little bit of time, so I immediately went to Village Hall. I brought the letters for each of my cars and was prepared to pay for each sticker as mentioned in the letter. I was then surprised when I was told the total was $300, $90 for each car and $60 fee per car. I asked why. The young woman helping me mentioned the penalty fees. I asked to speak with somebody to get some background and context in hopes of removing the fee. The special assistant to administration and finance mentioned the village finance manager was out of the building that day, and the village does not waive fees. She mentioned that it's a village ordinance, that I should know about it, that the village posts the vehicle sticker reminders on my water bill, in community newsletters, and around the village. I left without incident in hopes of solving this with the finance director, so I left my information. In the meantime, I thought this must be a mistake, so I checked my last 2 water bills. I didn't see anything regarding vehicle stickers as I was told. The finance director did reach out to me that afternoon by phone and doubled down. She mentioned fees are not waived to anyone, and the reason that there are penalty fees are because neighbors complained about some residents purchasing stickers while others haven't. I asked her why it would be reasonably expected for people to learn about this and pay by June 15th, to then pay again before October for next year's stickers, a total of $480 in 3 months. That would be me in my case. She mentioned that I would receive a citation if I didn't pay. Is this how we treat our residents? I've been a resident of this community for 2 years. I love living here. You're all my neighbors. I've never had any issues. I keep my head down, I keep it pushing. It's me and my young family. We moved here for a reason. Is every resident supposed to know every village ordinance, otherwise be penalized monetarily? Since this was originally brought upon by neighbors complaining, as I was told, I'm complaining now about how the village punishes people for something as ridiculous as a vehicle sticker. Again, I just want to pay the original sticker price for each of my cars and move on. That's all I want to do. And then I want to do it again by October, because this is the first time that I was told that I had to do it. Pretty straightforward in my eyes. I was told that we don't waive any fees in the village. I'm looking forward to reading the public records that I requested surrounding fee waivers. If there's evidence of someone's fee being waived, I want mine to be waived. I'll be back here again at the next meeting, which I believe was just mentioned was August 20th at 6:30, if I'm not mistaken, if there's any findings that show this. In closing, I'm hoping the board reconsiders fees and removes them immediately. No further penalties should be applied. This is only the beginning. I'm only here as a starting point, but it won't end here. I can mobilize my neighbors, exercise my civic duty, and talk to my fellow residents to help this gain some traction. We work for the people, correct? I know you all volunteer your time. I thank you for that. It's not an easy job, regardless of what you do during your day jobs. But the people shall be heard. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. As I had mentioned in an email to you, sir, this is an administrative matter. Our staff will respond as determined appropriate. Any other public comments this evening? Consent agenda. Clerk Stenzel, could you please read the consent agenda?
Approve voucher list of bills June 18th, 2026. Approve Village Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes June 4th, 2026. Review and file Board and Commission minutes. Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting minutes April 14th, 2026. Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting minutes May 12th, 2026. Historical Commission regular meeting minutes May 18th, 2026. Review and file department reports. Community Development, May 2026. Finance, May 2026. Fire, May 2026. Police, May 2026. Public Works, May 2026. An ordinance approving and designating certain trolley stops as Village of Riverside historical landmarks. An ordinance approving and designated the Stone Roadway Gutter in Harrington Park as a Village of Riverside historical landmark. An ordinance amending Section 2-10-8 of the Village Code of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, relative to emergency interim succession of officers. A resolution of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, authorizing and approving the submission of an application for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus EV Readiness Program. And a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a contract with Burke LLC for designer-led design-build services for the Olmsted Watershed Area road improvements in an amount not to exceed $2,407,544.
Do any of these items need to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion and a second to approve?
And seconded.
Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Marshaga? Trustee Gallagher? Trustee Koss? Trustee Evans? Trustee Mateo? Trustee Fitzgerald?
Consent agenda is approved. Department, Board, and Commission reports. First, we have sustainability update. Clerk Stenzel.
Thank you. This will be a brief update on the village's progress in executing the different actions identified in both the Climate Action and Resilience Plan and the Energy Action Plan. In 2026, the village has made major strides by completing tasks that were either identified in these plans or will lay groundwork in achieving some of the long-term goals that were identified. Some tasks completed already in 2026 are the Bee City designation, adoption of the nighttime lighting report, and renewing the village's 100% green energy electric aggregation. Some of the items that are still in progress is the dark sky community designation. While the Riverside Nighttime Lighting Report was formally adopted by the Village Board at its meeting on May 21st, 2026, staff are now currently assessing different financial implications to integrate recommended action items into the fiscal year 2027 budget, which will be subject to approval by the Village Board. For the Fleet Electrification Plan, staff's continuing to work with the Electrification Coalition and ComEd. I met with ComEd earlier this week, who are moving on to their next phase of their fleet assessment, which involves their engineers identifying different potential locations for municipal vehicle charging stations, and they'll evaluate our fleet as well and give cost estimates to help the village incorporate into future capital planning. For the sustainability workshops, they're currently paused to focus on other sustainability initiatives, but in the meantime, the village will have multiple appearances at the farmers market focusing on sustainability. On July 1st, village staff will be joined by Trustee Marshaga and Sharon Durling of Illinois Aggregation Consultants to speak with residents about electric aggregation, energy and cost-saving practices, and initiatives such as Illinois Solar for All. On July 29th, village staff will be joined by Trustee Evans to be available for residents to learn more about responsible lighting and the village's dark sky goals. For the waste hauler contract, the waste hauler survey has been live for approximately 30 days and will be ending on July 1st. To date, as of today, the village has received 336 responses from residents. This survey is asking residents for feedback on their current service as well as what they'd like to see from a waste hauler in the future. And coming up, we have the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus EV Readiness 5th Cohort. On the consent agenda, the village board was asked to approve the application to join the cohort. Qualifying local governments can apply to join the EV Readiness Cohort and receive free technical assistance and training in a variety of critical areas as we work towards the designation of an EV-ready community. We'll follow a pathway toward either an EV-ready bronze, silver, or gold designation by completing a number of different tasks they have listed on their EV Readiness checklist. Additionally, when I spoke with ComEd earlier this week, they mentioned that the fleet assessment was required as part of one of the silver designations and stated that the village was ahead by already looking into this progress. And that's all.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Clerk Stenzel on sustainability?
Thank you.
Any public comments on this matter? None? Thank you. Next, we have Parks and Recreation Department updates. Assistant Director Siska.
Good evening, President Pollock, Village Trustees, Manager Francis. I wanted to provide a quick update on some events and programs we have coming up. The Blythe Playground project is underway and remains on schedule for completion in August, and the construction of the new multi-use court at Blythe Park will begin next week. The court will be resurfaced and will be blue with a green border and white striping. It will feature a basketball court and a dedicated pickleball court. The department is working with School District 96 and their construction team to ensure that all construction is completed prior to the school year beginning. We continue to work with Trustee Evans on the Dark Sky Initiative and related educational programming. Our first Star Party will take place on June 22nd at Big Ballpark at 8:30 p.m. Members of the Chicago Astronomical Society and the Naperville Astronomical Association will provide telescopes and demonstrations for attendees. Parks and Recreation staff will be at the June 24th Farmers Market, and residents are encouraged to stop by and learn about upcoming programs and projects, ask questions, and provide any feedback. Independence Day festivities are quickly approaching as we celebrate America's 250th birthday. The July 3rd concert in Guthrie Park will begin at 5:30 with DJ Matteo, followed by wedding band. July 4th events include the Independence Day 5K, parade, festival, and toddler trot. And registration for the 5K is currently open online and at the Quincy Street Community Center. Unplug Illinois Day will be held on July 11th at the Scout Cabin. This free event promotes screen-free recreation and family fun. The day begins with the rescheduled Riverside ride at 8:15 a.m., followed by games and activities. We are partnering with Trustee Galagos and the Lions Club to bring cruise nights back to Riverside. The first cruise night will be held on July 15th from 6 to 9 p.m. on Quincy Street. Family activities will also be available at the Quincy Street Community Center. We are excited to introduce our new Nature Play School program for children ages 3 to 5. The program is nature-based and aligned with Illinois Early Learning and Development Standards. Registration opens on June 23rd, and an open house will be held on July 14th at 6 p.m. at the Quincy Street Community Center. Our long-term goal is to expand the program into a full nature-based preschool by the 2027-28 school year. Our Movie in the Park series continues on July 31st at 8:30 p.m. at Big Ballpark. Residents will have the opportunity to vote for the movie on Facebook. A third and final Movie in the Park is scheduled for August 28th. The final concert series event will take place on August 7th from 7 to 9 p.m. at Big Ballpark. The evening will feature local band Fletcher Rockwell. We'd like to thank our concert series sponsors, Christopher B. Burke Engineering, Flood Brothers, Starbuds, and Riverside Bank. And lastly, our Quarries Triathlon returns on August 15th, and registration is now open. The event welcomes participants of all ages and skill levels while promoting wellness and positive body image. We thank the Riverside Swim Club and the Corey Sikich Memorial Foundation for their continued support. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
That's it?
Yeah, right? That's all we got going on. Thank you.
Any public comments or questions on this? Pending business, motion to accept the Village of Riverside's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2025. Director Zavala.
Thank you. Good evening. The village is required to complete an annual comprehensive financial report within 6 months of the end of the fiscal year. Some highlights from 2025 were the village's total net position increased 7.4%, or $2,314,000. The general fund experienced an increase in fund balance of $555,000 prior to any transfers due to actual revenues exceeding actual expenditures. The actuarial level of the police pension fund has increased from 43.6% in 2024 to 49.4% in 2025. The street improvement fund was created, and activity can be viewed in the different sections of the report. The village also completed a single audit report pertaining to federal award expenditures and received an unmodified opinion. Preparing for an audit requires a significant investment of time, attention to detail, and collaboration across multiple departments. This year, the village and Lauterbach Amen faced difficulty preparing because we have yet to receive the property tax distribution details from Cook County, and the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund reports needed to complete the audit were reissued last Friday. I would like to sincerely thank Lauterbach and Amen for their professionalism and collaborative approach throughout the engagement and completing the last-minute adjustments quickly so that we would have a final audit to present to you this evening. Staff would also like to recognize and thank the Finance and Administration departments for their hard work and assistance throughout the audit process, especially Hannah DeCasla, accountant, and Michael Fornfinger, management analyst. Tonight, I would like to introduce Courtney Moore, Principal of Audit Services from LNE, who is here to present the opinion and give a little bit more detail about the audit. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As Yvette introduced, my name is Courtney Moore. I am one of the audit principals at Lauterbach and Amen, and I'm here to present the December 31st, 2025 audited financial statements. I would like to echo Yvette's thanks and say a huge thank you to her and her entire team for all their hard work in getting everything pulled together for the audit. We began this audit back in March. We came on site and tested various things and had various requests, and now we're very happy to have the final bound copy that you see in front of you today. So Yvette, thank you so much for all of your help. The village is a part of the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement in Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is a very prestigious award that is only valid for 1 year and requires the submission of an easily readable audit report beyond what is required for the state. I am happy to say that the submission of the 2024 audit was the 34th year that the Village of Riverside received this prestigious award. So congratulations on receiving it once again. We are working with the team to submit the 2025 audit, and I hope to be able to stand up here and say the same thing next year. The purpose of an audit is for us to perform various tests and procedures on your financial statements to ultimately form an opinion. We did give the village an unmodified opinion. It is also known as a clean opinion. It is the highest opinion that we can give. It states that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, and we can rely on the internal control environment of the village. Additionally, one of our required communication to all of you is to disclose if we had any difficulties or disagreements with management throughout the process. And I'm happy to say that we did not, and our verbiage within this letter is standard verbiage for that. So this is a very large report that is split into specific sections, but one of the sections I did want to kind of make an asterisk for. If there is anything that you read, I highly recommend that you take a look at the management's discussion and analysis. This is at the very beginning of the report, and it summarizes your financial information in non-financial terms with some charts and graphs to make it a little bit easy to understand. So highly recommend that you take a look there. Yvette had already touched on a couple of things, but I do want to touch on a few key financial highlights as well as of December 31st, 2025. Your general fund, your street improvement fund, your debt service fund, and your aggregate non-major funds all showed an increase in fund balance from last year to this year. As Yvette mentioned, there was an increase of about $555,000 before other financing, so other transfers in your general fund. Your Parks and Rec Fund and your Capital Projects Fund did show a decrease from last year to this year, but I do believe that the Capital Projects Fund was expected to do that, and both of those funds continue to remain healthy for the village. Additionally, in your business type funds, so these are your water and sewer fund and your parking lot fund, both of them had a positive net position this year as well. Your water sewer fund had a $21 million net position at year end, and your parking lot fund had a $2 million net position at year end. Past the financial statements are the notes to the financial statements, which really explain everything and anything you may need to know about the preceding financial statements, including information on your IMRF plan, your OPEB plan, capital assets, and long-term debt as well. The other required document that comes out of our audit is something called the management letter. These detail out any best practices, recommendations, policies, or procedures that may have come up during the audit that we would like to bring your attention to. We just had a couple of recommendations. Most of them are just FYI comments. The first one surrounding IT security awareness. It does not mean that we found anything. There were no red flags. Nothing came up throughout the audit, but this is more of an FYI comment to just ensure that the board is aware of emerging risks within IT. We did also note that you had a deficit fund balance in both of your Harlem Business District funds, which I believe was expected. This was a repeat comment from last year, so just something we are required to disclose. And then the final page of the management letter details out upcoming standards. So the Government Accounting Standards Board occasionally comes out with new rules that we are required to follow for your audit reports. And there are 2 new pronouncements coming out that are required to be implemented next year. So we just wanted to give that FYI so that you know that we know that they're coming, and we will work with the Finance Department to get them implemented as necessary. So with all that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on the audit report, the management letter, the audit process.
Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So with that, I need a motion and a second to accept the audit report.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Marshalska?
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher?
Aye.
Trustee Paz?
Aye.
Trustee Evans?
Aye.
Trustee Mateo? Aye. Trustee Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Thank you. The audit has been accepted. Public Safety Facility Planning Update, presentation of revised conceptual visualizations, community survey results, and next steps. Manager Francis.
Thank you. We have our architect, Joe Jewell from Williams Architect. He is a member of the team that has been working on all of the different pieces as it relates to our public safety facility. He'll be presenting the different findings, feedback that we've received and where we're at thus far, and then the next steps. So I'll let him go ahead and present.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's good to be back with you all. So we have a lot of slides here. I wonder, is there a clicker? Oh, yeah, okay, so.
Down is next.
All right. Yeah, so as Manager Francis said, this is basically a kind of a recap of what we went over with the community open house a few weeks ago. As I said, there are a lot of slides, so I'll try to move through this pretty quickly. But basically, you see the outline here, a summary of where we're at, a review of the plans, which most of you are familiar with already. And then I think what might be a little bit new is some of the material exploration and then the updated visualization concepts, which what you're going to see here today is pretty much what was shared with the community. And then with that, some of the visualizations of the sustainability strategies, cost estimates and comparisons, and then the feedback, and we can show visually some of the summary of that. So this shows where we're at in, as you know, the long ongoing process of this project, and we're very happy to have finally presented this to the community, and are prepping now to refine the concepts based on the feedback that we've received. This we put together in part these couple slides you'll see as a way to kind of illustrate over time the investments that have been made in the village, and to try to help folks kind of understand a realistic picture of why this project is needed in the big picture of what has been done over the years, and then also the big gap in time from early 2000s when there has not been a lot done. So kind of visually illustrating the timeline. And then with that, we further broke it down for this project, where starting in 2017 with the RFQ and summarizing the process for this specific public safety project and how we got here, basically, leading up to 2016 and the work that we're showing you today. So the plans that I think most of the board are familiar with, this is what was the approved scheme that we developed in collaboration with the village staff. And kind of recapping here, lower level with the garage, police processing components, a little bit of storage. Upper level broken down into the orange showing the public zone, red showing primarily the fire and emergency services, and then purple and blue, the combined shared office spaces. Moving to the upper level, again, a lot of the community features that were prioritized during the collaborative process with the village, and then police, shared, and fire support facilities on the upper level. This illustrates what was shared with the community, kind of a recap of Williams Architects' design process and how we developed more specifics about the material choices. So many of you will recall when we first showed the concepts, we showed that it's sort of a white box. We didn't really put a lot of material on it because we wanted to initially start with the conceptual ideas of the massing and the size and kind of shape of the building. And now we're excited to begin to think about specific materials, colors, the feel of the building. And of course, this great historic building was our main source for inspiration, being that it will be directly adjacent. So we looked also at regional projects. So a few of these snips are from Chicago area projects that we felt did a nice job of illustrating a little more modern interpretation of more traditional materials, knowing that this, based on feedback from the Historic Preservation Commission, our goal is not to match the Village Hall, but to create something that is appropriate in the context, but still modern for its time. So I'll move pretty quickly through these, but what we did, drawing from the feedback that we received from the board and then from the Historic Commission, we honed it down to basically 2 preferred options. But then us being architects, we can't limit ourselves to just 2 options, so we split those into 2 additional options. So you'll see there's option 1A and option 1B, option 2A and option 2B. So partly because we also wanted to put enough out there for the community to react to and get a good pool of input on these things. So option 1A was development of what we were calling the dynamic response scheme with the more modern lines and the more dramatic roof overhang on the front there. So here we're showing it with some of those materials, conceptual materials applied, brick, stone cladding, potentially a metal copper colored accent. So that's what you're seeing on this scheme primarily. And spinning around the building to the aerial view in the front and the back. Elevations of that, showing mainly the scale of it in relation to the Village Hall and those datum lines that we feel help keep it appropriate in scale to the building. So here's option 1B, same overall form, just different color palette. So I think I can spin through this one pretty quickly. This one's a little more contrasting on the front side, a little black and white kind of monochrome on the front side, and on the back is this one where we showed a very warm articulation with wood or a wood look material on the Riverside. And as we shared with the community, the goal is not to say any one of these schemes is locked in, but to draw like potentially ideas from multiple schemes, things that people positively react to or negatively react to that we should take into account. So here's option 2A. So this is the development of what we were calling the contextual presence scheme, a little more subdued, still a little bit cleaner modern lines compared to a traditional building, but we felt a little more subdued and contextual compared to the historic Village Hall. And a very analogous color scheme on this one with the brick and stone, copper and metal accents that we were trying to show something very analogous to the Village Hall in this case. Moving around to the aerial view and the river view. All right, and then option 2B, another iteration of that where we took feedback from the Historic Preservation Commission, who had actually urged us to kind of reevaluate some of the modern elements that were shown in a couple of the other schemes. So we kind of brought back a few of the framing elements that we had showed in one of the prior schemes based on the commission's feedback, and incorporated that into this option 2B. Same views, going around to the river, and the aerial view. And that view adjacent to the Village Hall. Okay, moving along to the sustainable strategies. As part of the community presentation, we also highlighted the sustainability process, because as we know, that is something very valuable to us Riverside residents that the community is committed to. So I was pleased with what the team and I were able to come up with here, breaking this down. We basically used the International Living Futures Association's categories, which they call the 7 petals, is an aspect of what is called a living building certification, where the picture is like a flower with its petals. So each one of these components, these don't stand alone, but these all kind of work together and overlap one another to create that flower in the image. So the 7 petals, so these are all, there's some overlap basically. These don't just stand alone. And we honed in on things that we felt were important to the site through place, of course, thinking about like the health and happiness of occupants through the design. Energy use, of course, is a huge part of it. So thinking about the energy use of the building, and then ways to supplement that through solar panels and energy improvements. Also, as noted here, aligning with the sustainability commitments of the village under equity and community, managing water, and of course, not least, beauty as well. A building that doesn't endure isn't sustainable, and it's not going to endure if it's not well designed and beautiful. And then lastly, materials. So these are the bullet points under here are basically highlighting elements that we either have already incorporated into the process in the case of many of these, or things that Williams is prepared to delve further into. Example, like the embodied carbon, we haven't necessarily run those calculations yet, but we have the tools to help us evaluate the choices in the building to help us reach those goals. And same would go for other aspects of the sustainability. These were some visualizations that were shared with the community, showing a glimpse, again, at some of the tools that we have at our disposal. The daylight and solar energy schemes here show between the two, the kind of at a glance, the trade-offs that develop depending on the different building forms. So the option 1 schemes obviously have more solar potential. They have a larger roof, so you could fit more solar panels on that roof. But if you look at the daylight, by comparison, option 1, by extending that roof, you're also creating darker areas under the roof, so you're getting less daylight into the building. So option 2, you're getting pretty bright exposure on the building there, but less roof, so less potential area for solar panels. So it's, again, part of that, the evolution as we proceed in our process, finding the sweet spot, as it were. The building section here showing how we initially start by calculating solar angles throughout the year, see how far would that sunlight come through the different times of the year, winter solstice, summer solstice, and so on. All right, now to the good stuff. This is a visual breakdown of the cost components of the project. So showing the like the actual construction costs, of course, are the largest piece of the pie, but then also the what we call the soft costs and contingency, so the work that goes into making this happen. And allowing for escalation, of course, over time, assuming the start date. So this was part of what we shared kind of briefly to the community, and then followed up with some additional supplemental information drawing from Williams' experience with other related projects. And the goal here was to answer questions, which, as you'll see in the feedback, and as we know, as residents, cost is a big part of this concern. So as a way to illustrate really that we feel this project is very cost responsible, when you look at it in comparison to the cost per square foot for other related building types, going from like a very high cost per square foot for in the case of a referendum that failed, unfortunately, versus ones that were awarded and are significantly higher cost per square foot, versus honing in on some that are pretty close and pretty analogous with some slight nuances where, like the Schaumburg example, is a much larger project with larger area, therefore somewhat the costs are distributed across that, and it brings the cost per square foot down a little bit. So basically to say we feel that this project is very realistically on target or even better than average for what we are providing in this design. And then a little visualization to break down kind of in graph form. You can kind of see the dramatic difference between those high-end ones and as we come down. And then these are the strategies that we feel in this case are also helping to manage that cost. So the efficient design of a fairly compact building with a fairly compact structure and program that is stacked there that helps to reduce that overall cost. Also having an urban site with fairly limited site work around it, not insignificant, but we're not creating massive parking lots or massive retention areas. So that also helps a bit. And then, of course, working as we're happy to have a very experienced design team and very good partnership with our estimating team and Williams' good track record of very accurate estimates and delivery on projects. All right, so yeah, sorry, the titles, looks like the font got off a little bit and you can't quite see the title at the top there, but these are the results from the live event, the feedback. We used what was called a Mentimeter, where we had people bring their phones out and they could vote on questions, and even as we were there in the presentation, we could see the results begin to come in and these bars begin to move around. So these were examples of, like, do I agree that this facility is needed? Obviously, a lot of people agreed. Is important that the project is sustainably designed, kind of split, like absolutely yes, or yes if reasonable in cost. So kind of equal there, or close to it. And then this was an interesting one too. So if you recall back to the images that I very quickly sprinted through there, option 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B, the first three there, option 1A, option 1B, option 2A, are all fairly close. They're kind of all in there. The 2B, the last one that I showed, where we had brought in some of those other ideas from the previous scheme, that one didn't fare so well. So kind of tells us maybe we were right to rule out some of those ideas earlier on. But it was interesting to me that 1B, which you may recall was the more monochromatic contrasting one on the village side with the more warm wood on the Riverside, that was the highest ranked one in the live feedback, but again, close. The word cloud shows, of course, the big one in the middle. Cost is the big concern on everybody's mind, and also very concerned about it not being approved if the referendum doesn't proceed. So that was, here's a little bit bigger view where you can see the, so I believe from that live event, I think this is an example of like every response that was submitted in that moment. So it might be a little hard to read on screen, but you can see the various things that the community brought up, and the program kind of prioritizes where these things combine and makes those the bigger, more central concerns. As this one shows, this was the online survey, so those who were not necessarily attending in person, we made it available to people online as well, and these are the results. So you'll see very similar, but also some slight differences. A few more people online were more vocal in saying undecided or no on whether the project is needed. More people were saying only if this is reasonable do we prioritize sustainability. Obviously here in the online, the word cloud, the cost is very much the concern. Interestingly, the results pretty similar, where we have those first three. 2B is still the one behind there. But in this case, it kind of flipped between 1A and 1B. People prioritized the very first one that I showed that had a little bit more analogous color scheme to the Village Hall. And then here's the zoom in on those online word cloud, where you can see a lot of the things that people put out there, prioritizing the concerns about taxes and cost, of course. And then in addition to the Mentimeter survey, we also had opportunity for comment card feedback. So this is like a quick summary of the things that people wrote. So this is people having the opportunity to just voice their opinion. So honest opinions from people saying they believe it's not aesthetically worthy, offering like an alternate location, concerns about site access and parking, the concerns about the fact that we have railroad running through our town, right? So how does that address the challenges of now having one apparatus bay location instead of two stations? Of course, cost concerns, the thoughts about the community needs, whether the additional community spaces are really necessary or whether those could be better accommodated with other facilities. The thoughts related about the fitness room and soundproofing. The people voiced some opinions about the design and ways that the design could be improved or changed, or feeling that the Village Hall should have more precedence and be referred to more in the design. Someone pointed out that the Arts Center could contribute. I forgot to point out when I was going through the slides, but we did show some areas where we were suggesting a mural, public mural on that Riverside. So that I think was a good point someone caught there. We definitely have talented people who could contribute. And then of course, accessibility being a concern for Riverside's older population. And there was a lot more to the feedback. This is just the bullet points. All right, so here's our summary of our takeaways. We believe that yes, there is support, but there's a lot of questions about the specific needs and scopes of the project. There does not seem to be clear consensus on the design direction, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, it's a lot of pieces that can be drawn from, so didn't necessarily expect to have a first place winner among all the things we showed. The potential to carry forward more than one option is a concern. I guess nuance there, of course, like are we getting distracted by the design instead of the practical need and function? The cost and aesthetic concerns, of course, are in tension. People love the beautiful design, want more beautiful aspects to it, but that also adds cost. We feel that community understanding of costs and similar facilities, as was illustrated in some of those graphs, is important. Noting that cost, unfortunately, has to come from cost reduction, unfortunately, has to come from reducing something, either scope and function or quality, potentially. Support for sustainability is there, but as long as it doesn't break the bank, of course. And then we feel, of course, the need to continue to tell and promote the story behind this project, which we know and feel is a great story. So the next steps for June and July: concept refinement leading up to more community engagement at the July 3rd concert, the Farmers Market. September, looking at the final concept development there, and our final presentation to this board in October, and then winter, final board consideration of the referendum, and the goal for March to April of next year is the referendum question on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Jewell?
Were we supposed to decide between 1A, 1B?
No, not at this
2A at this
time. Correct. This is more for everyone's information at this time, correct?
Right. I believe this was more to inform you all of what the community's reaction to the designs, and we feel with the community's direction that we have a pretty good idea of a direction to move with it. We're certainly interested to hear additional feedback, but that wasn't our intent in this meeting to necessarily pick a design direction.
How many people did the online survey?
Oh, let me go back actually, because I think it showed us the number of feedback here. So if we total it up, it looks like 19.
19, okay. With these community engagement activities that are coming up in the next few weeks, is it the intent that they be a refinement of what came before, or is it the same thing trying to reach a new audience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe it is mainly the same content, in part because we printed high-quality boards and imagery based on what you saw today that are now in the village's hands to use for these events. Not to say that we couldn't further develop and share more progress imagery as we proceed, but we have like the backbone of the material is what was shared with the community and what we've given to the village to use for these upcoming events.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just have a couple of questions on here. I'm not asking the questions. I'm bringing up what I think we should be prepared for to ask before the final presentation comes up in September and October. You know, to give your team the heads up on it. But a lot of this was based off of concerns that we hear in the community, and especially what we hear with the word cloud, which I think was a great element to this. So the big ones that were on there was time, cost, not being approved were the big ones that were on there, and also higher taxes. So in terms of costs, I think it could be good for the board and the community to hear once we get, aside from the design, what, as you said, you have an estimating team. I'd like to hear some of the confidence levels of where they're at with those numbers versus what actual bids could potentially be, and what's the strategy for that, based on those assumptions, and also what a little more clarity into what the escalation risks are when it comes down to what are some of the cost drivers, and then also what are some of the escalating elements that can happen, you know, pre-bid and then breaking ground afterwards of what we can expect. Because this is a lot of money that we're putting out on here, and it's dual-folded too, because it's not that we're only dealing with that, but we're also pegging a number to the referendum in March and April, and you know, how do we work with that number going into the vote and into the bids as well. And then, since it was brought up on there that it's not being approved, if this were not to move forward on here, maybe this is something you could answer here. What's the shelf life of this design? Is this good 2, 3, 5 years from now? Or is there going to be significant changes other than the escalation of that 1.7 million with a 28 start date?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, I guess what I kind of, on the simple aspect to it, the design, it has a pretty long shelf life. Like the design's going to work pretty well, regardless of the time frame. It's really the cost. Because as we know, inflation and cost escalation just happens over time. So that's sort of the simple answer to a complex question.
Yeah, I wasn't trying, I know this is, I wanted to get this out there since we're going to be having such a long period between now and then, that perhaps this is something that your team could take into consideration of stuff that, you know, at least will come up again into the future.
Yeah, I appreciate that thought.
And if I understood your presentation correctly, in terms of escalation, we're already looking at 1.7 million over the course of a little less than 2 years, right?
Right, yeah, based on our current.
If we wait another 5 years, you could assume that same level of escalation, yeah. And then also, I thought the benchmark table showing other buildings and their square foot value was very helpful. And I think that's very informative for the community. The other one that compared it to other, oh no, this does too, yeah. So you see, we're we're estimating $645 per square foot. The Schaumburg facility is a little less, but it's 3 times as big. And the other thing I would be curious about is how many of those are both fire and police as well as a community facility. Because I know in some other villages I've been exposed to, one I know right now is looking at $20 to $30 million for just a fire station. No police, no community facilities, nothing else. So that square foot, because I've had people, and I thought it myself initially, it's like 30 million, you know, that seems like a lot. But construction costs have skyrocketed, and so it's proven right there. The square foot cost of these facilities is pretty high, and we're at the low end. So, other questions, comments?
Just the other thing too, just based off of what was in the word cloud as well, it mimics what everybody else is asking on the street in the neighborhoods with the taxes, and this is not directed to you, this is directed towards staff, is that it was a great starting point where we're talking about monthly and yearly based on the median household of $500,000 here, but we have some houses that are below 500, and we have some that are way over $1 million plus on here. Is there any way where staff can have a more data-driven narrative for some of the residents that are asking how much it's going to cost them for a house their size, not only from what you presented with the monthly and yearly, but also total with interest included? And this is the feedback that we're getting from the residents.
So we can certainly work with our financial advisor to give different ranges, but the precise of your home is valued at $615,000. It would be a ratio or a percentage, right? We could ask them to break it down based on per $100,000, so it gives a more approximate value, certainly. But then you also have to look at, we're looking at to the snapshot in time, right? And so we have other things that are going on throughout the village. We have a planned unit development that is going to be built. That changes our equalized assessed value, which then in turn would change that dollar amount, right? So we're capturing, it would actually decrease what residents will have to pay. But we don't have that number yet. We don't have what that equalized assessed value is going to be for that new building. We're also looking at doing a redevelopment. So what we'll put together will basically be, just for the public's general benefit, is almost a worst case scenario based on today's equalized assessed value. With future development, that pie gets split up even more so. And so the impact for this referendum will decrease over time as different things are built up. And there's also redistribution too, right? So if we have a home that's demolished that was $200,000 and $1 million home is put on that same piece of land, well, they're going to be paying more than the previous owner for those bonds. But we can certainly put that together to kind of provide that general education point. But like I said, this is a snapshot in time. And as staff and the board work diligently to create development and enhance commercial spaces to bring in more businesses, that's going to help decrease that burden on residential properties.
All right, thanks. Because what people are hearing is their taxes are going up from Cook County and then they have more stuff to do. So I think that's going to help drive some conversation that's out there.
Right. And the statement I would make is and then President Pollock has stated this as well, the value of your public safety facilities and the condition of your public facilities in general, which includes your parks, your green spaces, and your general governmental buildings, you want to continue to maintain, because that is an extension of your property value as well. And so that's something really cognizant for residents to have an awareness of as well. There is an expense, certainly, but also making sure that they're putting that investment in which they're gonna see that return on their home as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question you may or may not be able to answer. What's going on with Geneva? It's the same space, but twice as expensive. Is there something a lesson in there for us?
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I may have to get back with you on that, but we can, as our team circles up, I'm looking for that one. There we go. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll definitely want to hone in on that and see what, because I don't believe that I don't think that was our project. I don't want to speak out of turn. I didn't work on that one anyway. But I know the West Dundee and the Schaumburg ones are Williams projects. So those are the ones that we're most familiar with. Yeah, I'm not sure about the Geneva one, but that's a good question.
I wanted to make a comment, because again, a lot of people are talking about this, and for the people who do not think that this is needed, and I know that some people felt like that in the engagement sessions, I really, really, really want to encourage people who don't think that this is needed to go on the tour of our current public safety facilities and see what they look like, and see what our first responders are living with and working with. I cannot stress that enough, to just sit back from, from a distance and be like, yeah, I don't think we need it. Please, go look and see what's going on and where our first responders are and where they're working, and then come talk to me and tell me about whether or not you think this is needed, because I think that there's a lot of people in the village who do not understand, and maybe have never been in some of these spaces, and I just don't think that you can go in them and see what's going on and come out of there and be like, we're good. We don't really need to do anything about it. I have to say, as a newer trustee, and when I came on, this was one of the most appalling things when I went and looked at the facilities. I was frankly embarrassed that that's what we were asking of our first responders. So again, I just want to say, for people who don't think that this is needed, please go on a tour and then tell me if you still think the same thing.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. That once you see it, you'll believe it.
Yeah.
Any other trustees? Just to summarize, could you go back to next steps?
Oh, am I going the wrong way? Got to remember the direction here. Nope, I am going the wrong way. Sorry. Oh yeah, you can jump me there.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll continue to get public feedback. We haven't gotten nearly enough yet, and I am confident we'll get a lot more. And that'll happen over the summer with the tours. Is the survey still on our website?
Yes, it will continue to be
It'll
live.
continue to be live, so anyone can go on our website and view all this information and take the survey. It looks like it'll be sometime in the fall where we will really get down to what we want this to look like. So we've got some time to get that information. And I just ask the community to keep an open mind, take the tours, and stay engaged. Any other comments from trustees? Any public comments? No? Well, thank you, Joe. Appreciate you coming out and making this presentation, and more to come.
Of course. Thank you, President Pollock, Manager Francis, and Board.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Turtle Park Playground renovation update. Assistant Director Siska.
Thank you, President Pollock. The Turtle Park project is in the final stages with construction beginning in September. As you may remember, the design included an enlargement of the southernmost container of the playground to accommodate additional equipment for a wide variety of ages. The enlargement necessitates the relocation of the seating wall to maintain accessibility and grading of the overall area. While the wall relocation was included in the original plans due to the expansion of the South Play area, it was not specifically called out by our design firm during their presentation, and the department wanted to ensure that the Village Board of Trustees and residents were fully aware. To preserve this original park feature, staff requested that the wall be relocated rather than removed. The contractor will carefully disassemble the existing wall and reassemble it using the salvaged stone material at the new location that's shown on the plans. The existing berm will be restored and graded, and the small berm will be created behind the relocated wall to integrate it into the playground design. Director Malchiotti attended the Preservation Commission meeting on June 1st to present the seating wall relocation. The commission had no concerns for the relocation and voted unanimously to approve that aspect of the design. So before I move on to the next item for the Turtle Park project, does the board have any feedback in regards to the seating wall?
Nope.
Great. Another aspect of the project is equipment type and appearance. Staff incorporated feedback received from both the Village Board and the Parks and Recreation Board into the playground design, including updating the former imaginative play truck to a boat. The Parks and Recreation Board's recommended color palette consists of turquoise with green accents, as you can see on the slide here, due to the cohesiveness with the boat structure and the inviting nature of that color palette. This slide shows an actual photograph of the treated wood with the turquoise and green accents to provide a visual of what the Turtle Park materials would look like in that recommended color palette. The following slides include renderings of the playground, providing visuals of the stain colors as well as other playground aspects of the climbers and the slides. The climbers and slides can be green, gray, blue, or turquoise. And finally, the boat imaginative play structure is shown with a green stain and a red flag. The flag color can remain red or can be changed. Staff is just seeking consensus from the Village Board on the color palette that was recommended by the Parks and Recreation Board of turquoise with green accents and a red flag on the boat structure.
Any comments, concerns on the colors?
Thanks.
I think the Parks and Rec Board has done a great job
Yeah.
with this, and I certainly appreciate their recommendation.
Our code says that the colors have to be natural, browns and greens, and the Parks and Rec Board discussed this at length with their different color options, and turquoise seemed to be the consensus, and maybe not the bright color they would have preferred, but it's a compromise.
What is the, where is the turquoise on this? I'm just.
The turquoise, if you're looking at the treated, you can kind of see it in the windows. The turquoise is the roof.
Oh.
And then if you look on the sides of the windows, that's the green.
Oh, I
So the
see.
green would be utilized less. It would just be an accent color. The primary color would be that turquoise.
Because the green is actually a lighter shade of green
Correct.
than, and is that
Than the
on the
turquoise.
untreated? Is that roof portion? Is that
That's also
turquoise?
turquoise, although
Oh, but
the
it's
Parks and Rec
untreated.
Board is recommending the treated just to help kind of seal the wood and prevent it from graying.
Okay. Yeah, because actually the turquoise stain appears to be more natural and cohesive when it is on the untreated. So I think the effect would be more natural if it were untreated, but is there evidence or data on the longevity of treated versus untreated? or-
Yeah, treating the wood does help kind of seal in the longevity of that wood. And what we were told is that while the untreated looks like a tan brown here, over time it will kind of weather into a grayer color.
Okay. I would say that I would like to follow the recommendations of the Parks and Rec Board on the coloration then.
I also think it makes a difference in these pictures. I really think it's very much similar. One of these pictures is taken in bright sunlight, and the other one is taken on a very cloudy day. And so I know that's, but like in all seriousness, it does make a big difference. I don't think the colors are that much different in reality. I think one is just like, you can see like there's harsh shadows and stuff like that in the picture on the left. and barely shadow on the right. So I don't think there's quite such a contrast as what it looks like in these pictures.
So consensus is to go along with the Parks and Recreation Board
Yes.
recommendations? Very good.
Great. And then finally, a quick note, throughout the public engagement process, preserving the existing turtle feature was a consistent priority for residents. To celebrate its preservation and encourage continued community involvement, the department will host a Name the Turtle contest, allowing residents to submit turtle names and vote for their favorite, with the winner receiving public recognition following the playground renovation.
Love that idea.
That's everything.
I still want the turtle housed at my house during construction. My house is pretty close to the park, I'm just saying.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from any public comments? There's none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Update on parks and open space zoning. Director Siren.
Thank you. Good evening. This is an update and discussion item. I'm requesting the board's initial direction, not a final decision. The Parks and Recreation Board and Planning and Zoning Commission have discussed this in depth, and tonight I'll summarize where each landed and highlight where they differ so the board can give direction before it's brought before other commissions. The Parks and Recreation Board built the foundation by developing recommended use table, which draws on the existing park uses and the community desired uses from the park master plan. The board's consistent priority was flexibility, not limiting what the village could build in the future. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the Parks and Recreation Board's work, affirmed the overall framework, and refined it. They added parkway triangles to the open space zoning district. For neighborhood parks and open space, they more often recommended that new uses go through public review, reflecting the smaller scale and residential or natural character of those areas. They added 2 items the Parks and Recreation Board did not review: a recommendation that the Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, review site plans for park projects, and establishing park-by-park impervious surface limits set just above the existing coverage. Where the 2 bodies differ. First is the Indian Gardens zoning map. You'll see this is the Parks and Recreation Board's recommended map, with this area being open space, the areas in dark green, and the scout cabin, which the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended integrating into a community park as part of Indian Gardens. So that's a difference too. But you'll notice this area, this community park area, would extend throughout this entire area and include the existing disc golf course, with the boundary to align with that area here. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended a different boundary. You'll see again, Scout Cabin is integrated into Indian Gardens as a community park. The boundaries of the disc golf course reflect the edges of that community park, as well as the Scout Cabin and the ball field and tennis courts. The remainder of this would be open space.
Director Siren,
Yes.
Would it make sense for the board to consider each of these differences individually?
Of course.
So you see the 2 different options, one recommended by Parks and Recreation Board, the other, that's the Parks and Recreation Board, a larger area devoted to active recreation, whereas Planning and Zoning limited the active recreation to the existing facilities. So trustees, any thoughts on that?
Isn't there a path that goes through along the river currently?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
So wouldn't that be considered part of the active? Wouldn't that necessarily, because there's already a path there, wouldn't that already be part of the active?
That was not conceived as part of the active space. Pathways are permitted in open space district.
Oh, okay.
They're permitted in the open space districts and all the park districts. They're a permitted use.
Okay. So what, can you explain the difference between the 2, just to?
So the concept would be that effectively to do any additional active recreation with this map outside of those bounds would require a zoning map amendment to amend the zoning map, which we've done before. It would be different in this case. This is a little bit different than how you normally do zoning when you go parcel by parcel. In this case, you would amend the zoning map. For example, if the disc golf course were extended in this area or in this area, you would amend the zoning map to enlarge the community park to include that area.
Okay.
Alternatively, you could amend the use table for open space to permit disc golf as a permitted use, as an example. So those are the two options.
And then how does the status of this area being a floodway affect this? Because really nothing can be built, nothing significant can be built there because it's a floodway. So is that reflective of what planning and zoning did with what they proposed there? Is that because that is the floodway?
That was effectively the recommendation. It was two parts. One, it's a floodway, so likely won't be developed in any case.
Right.
The second is to preserve. To preserve the oaks and other natural areas in this area from further development.
Okay.
I think the approach was to keep the riverfront, to preserve the riverfront.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was my preference from the beginning. When we had the designation of the Audubon Important Bird Area, the village committed to preserving that habitat. And so my preference is to have the entire riverfront to be open space so that we can preserve those areas.
Which is consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. Yeah.
Can you do a side-by-side of them by any chance?
I can do it back and forth.
I just watched
I can
Emily
move very
completely
quickly.
panic, being
I
like,
can click very quickly back. I don't have the swipe capabilities. I apologize.
okay, so the Parks and Rec recommendation basically has it going all the way to the river.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it adds more land area right there and more land area south of
Yeah,
the
towards the
three
river
disc
there.
golf, right.
But not all the way to the river.
Not all the way to the river. Neither one
No,
of them
it
goes
is.
all the way to the river, right?
No, it does.
It does?
It's my understanding. That dark strip on both of them is the river itself.
Is
Okay.
it river? Oh, it's not the bank? Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot closer, for sure. So I feel, I don't want to get it in the way of anyone's comments or anything, but I want to add something for you to consider. My feelings about this whole process is that we're putting in place a framework that will be used for future decision-making, future public input, et cetera. Given that, I feel strongly that what we zone right now should not be speculative. It should be based on what's there. I don't know if I would support an expansion of the disc golf or not, but I do believe strongly that should be separated, and that should be a separate process, a separate public hearing. If we approve, for example, if we were to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, and the Parks Board immediately says, we want to add disc golf, great, go through the process. There'll be a public hearing, residents will get input. This process doesn't lend itself well to addressing specific additions to parks. It's more to set the framework so that when we want to add additions to an active park, we've got a process to do that where the public knows what we're doing. It's very transparent. It's very accessible for public input. So I guess in summary, I'm not saying I object to what Parks and Rec Board is recommending. I just feel like for this process, we need to be very conservative about how we approach it. That may apply to other questions we come across here today. If someone disagrees, please tell me.
Well, I guess what concerns me about this one is how it kind of jumps all over. I feel like that is a lot more complicated. Like, I wish that we could smooth out the lines a little bit, because my concern with this map is, where does it end? Right? Like, you know, like, is it this tree or is it this tree? Is it, I mean, like, I just feel like this makes it much more convoluted than just saying this wedge, right? I mean, I feel like it's more complicated.
I see what they tried to do here by incorporating the, you know, the courts and the fields with the disc golf course, and then linking it to the scout cabin area, which has the, you know, council circle in front of it, et cetera. So I think that there is a logical connection in what the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended. You can see what they were trying to do. So between the two approaches, I prefer that one. I would say that if it would help to see, you know, the GIS map of trees that are in the area, in order so that we have a more concrete understanding of what the boundaries are before we, you know, actually have to vote on it. Maybe that would be a good thing to do, just so we have full information.
Yeah, I just feel like this one's unnecessarily complicated. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, saying like, this is where things are active right now, and we're just going to limit it to where we already have an active area. I understand that, but this just looks unnecessarily complicated to me.
If I may, so it's certainly more complex in that it has more 90-degree turns or whatever, more angles, but what's the downside of that? I mean, how's that a detriment to the public?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think it's unnecessarily complicated from the standpoint of you cannot build or develop anything more in that area. I mean, as somebody who was on the Parks and Rec Board when we did the disc golf, when we put in the disc golf, it took a while to come up. We were getting a lot of input from residents saying there needed to be something in Division 1, something recreation-wise. Everybody wanted some sort of equipment and stuff like that to play on. They wanted a park. None of that can be put there because of this being a floodway. So it was very difficult to find something that could actually be put there that could be active recreation in the first division. It took a lot of research, and it was incredibly complicated. So the idea that anything beyond where the disc golf is currently, like, it's unnecessarily complicated because there's nothing that can be put there anyway. There's nothing that can go in there because you can't have, you can't install anything there. I mean, it's a floodway. It can't be improved because it's considered part of the riverbank. It's not even considered it's not a floodplain, it's a floodway.
Well,
So,
a second reason why I favor the Planning and Zoning Commission's general
that's great.
approach to this is that our national landmark designation is based in part on our open space, on our, and so when you carve out in a zoning, whether it's a legal zoning or whatever, but whenever you start carving into the open space for another express purpose, I think it has the potential. I mean, even though nothing can be built in this particular instance because it's a floodway, I just think that it detracts from or potentially opens a door that we don't want to open. We just need to be very careful with that.
First of all, I don't know that it's accurate to say nothing can be built in the floodway. It's very limited, and there's oftentimes compensatory things you have to do. But also, I think it really comes down to, do we want to speculatively zone areas that aren't currently used for active recreation in this process, or do we want to save that for another day? In my opinion, we should save that for another day. Parks and Rec, that open space could turn into an active park, but only after there's a public hearing with the planning, only after Parks and Rec Board recommends it and comes up with the plan. Planning and Zoning Commission has a public hearing where residents can come out and discuss it, and then it comes to the board for a final decision.
How is that different than now?
Yeah, that's
We
openly
can do it now. if
No,
you
but
want.
I mean, how is
Yeah.
that different than the process that exists right now?
We don't have any zoning now.
There's no zoning.
Well, I get that we don't have zoning, but
There
isn't
is
that
no
the exact?
process.
Well, no, there
Meetings are
was.
public. Meetings are public
There was a whole
anyways.
process for disc golf. It went through the
So-
There's-
entire.
Let me rephrase it. There's no established process. It's whatever we decide, like with the disc golf, we just made a unilateral decision to inform the public directly. There was no requirement for us to do that. Under zoning, if they wanted to add more disc golf courses outside of what planning and zoning is recommending, there would be a public hearing, and everyone would know ahead of time. This is the process. Those residents would know if they want to expand that disc golf beyond what you see here, they're going to get a letter in the mail telling them they have the opportunity to come out and talk about it. Now, they could do that now. They could do that with this process, but I really feel strongly that's going to bog down this process. If Parks and Rec and residents, somebody wants to add on to that, great, let's do it. Let's consider it. Let's go through the process. I don't know if I'd be for it or not, but I really think we need to limit the active zoning, park zoning, to what is active now and not speculate on what may be there in the future. Doesn't mean that we can't rezone. We can always rezone. We can always do a text amendment, whatever. But I think
So the point of this is that it, as opposed to going from Parks and Rec to the village board, it would also have to go through planning and zoning.
right.
That's the point of this.
No, it's not the point. The point is that, indirectly it is. The point, though, is that this is transparent. Those residents that live across from what's shown as open space, they have no way of knowing what could happen across the street from them. They have no way of knowing,
Could you?
because
Dollar
it's not
illustration.
zoned. And if, with this zoning, they could look at that zoning, they say, okay, it's open space now, it's zoned open space. That
recreation.
means if someone wants to build a park there, I get a notice in the mail.
Okay. All right, but whatever is happening across the street is already happening across the street. This really just more goes towards the depth of things, further away from those houses and closer to the river.
I understand what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying. But I think, I understand what Doug's saying about, being more conservative, because we're not always going to be sitting here in this boardroom. There's going to be other people that are sitting in the boardroom
Yeah.
making other decisions. And by being conservative, we're preserving, protecting our green space, and it's set until someone wants to go through a process to make a change. And then that process is in place.
So why is the assumption, I mean, I feel like we're operating under the assumption that the Parks and Rec Board doesn't care about open space and green space, and I
Nobody
don't
said
understand why
that.
we're operating under the assumption that they
Nobody
need to
said
be. Well, but I feel like we're operating under that assumption. I'm not saying you, but
No,
I feel
not-
like
I haven't heard
this
that at
is
all in the
operating
building. I
under
think
the
it's sort of
assumption.
becoming that. It's sort of becoming that I feel that, but that's not what it is.
So, sorry, Manager Francis.
So just from a staff perspective, right? We've had a lot of different things that have been proposed or discussed in different parks. And so the challenging part is there is no zoning, right? So Director Malchiotti comes to me and is like, Parks and Rec Board is thinking about doing this. Like, okay, well, how do we navigate this? Because there's no clear process. We should announce it at a board meeting, even though technically there's nothing in the code that says, disc golf was a great example, right? There was no clear process. And so there was plenty of discussion. And I was like, kind of feel like preservation needs to, this needs to be reported preservation. And it was in Landscape Advisory Commission. But that wasn't because there was a process. It was my previous experiences built upon over time that said, if we install this and we don't do these different things, like, it's just not going to be good. And so as part of the Barry Dunn process was you need to do zoning because, one, there's clarity as to what can be done in spaces. It makes it easier for staff to be like, okay, Parks and Rec Board wants to do disc golf. This is allowed in this area. Okay, then we make a recommendation on purchase, essentially. Whereas if it's something that is not permitted, then if it's zoned in a certain way, then they would go through that zoning process. So it would be really clear for the Parks and Rec Board of what their role is and the expectations. Whereas right now it's like this very unclear space, I think, for both staff and the Parks and Rec Board.
Well, we're talking about two different things now, though.
Okay.
I'm not saying we shouldn't zone these areas. We absolutely should zone these areas. I think zoning's a good idea because then it does clearly state what can be done. My thought process is, why create such a complicated zoning area for this area when it doesn't need to be? That's my opinion, is that it doesn't need to be that complicated.
I would answer that we're creating a complicated, complex lines. The lines are complex, they're not all, because we're preserving transparency and the opportunity for public input when parks expand. That's why those lines are crooked.
Okay.
And it also reflects the public feedback we got, or the prior boards got, when disc golf was being considered.
Yeah.
So
but I feel like, okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I guess, so then I think it just comes down to, I think my opinion as one board member is that what planning and zoning came up with is overly complicated, and, we should simplify that. I don't care if it goes back to what Parks and Rec did, but I feel like that's just crazy. It's just too complicated.
I feel like it makes, the lines actually make sense to me because they go around the,
So I want to see if we have a consensus on this one. This is a difficult decision, but this is a really important thing for this village, to where we actually define what's open space and what's active. Ever since I've been involved in village government in this town, and even before then, the question that always I've heard over and over again is, what's the Parks Board's jurisdiction? What's open space? And my answer to what's the Park Board's jurisdiction is the entire village is under the jurisdiction of the Parks Board. The zoning tells us what the current conditions are, and if the Park Board said, I want to buy 5 houses on Olmsted Road to build a tot lot, they have the jurisdiction to do that. They have to go through a zoning process, though, like everybody else. So anyway, I think it's a difficult decision. I appreciate the input, Trustee Cost and everyone else. I'm hearing from those who've spoken, I'm hearing leaning toward the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. I respect and value Trustee Cost that you don't agree with that. Is there a consensus with Planning and Zoning recommendation, or with?
I'm not in favor of that one. I would prefer the Parks and Recreation.
You prefer the Parks and Recreation, the broader zoning?
I was interrupted and I didn't get to finish my comment.
I'm sorry.
I like the lines the way they are. They actually, if you look at it, it makes sense. It carves around Frisbee golf. It carves around the cabin.
carved around Frisbee golf again. And then there's that little divot there. I don't remember what was there. There's something there on the top left. So I don't think it was randomly cut at all. I think that both sides have legitimate desires. And both sides were thoughtful in making their boundaries.
Do you have a preference?
Yes, I prefer the planning and zoning version.
I'm for the planning and zoning.
Trustee Mateo, planning and zoning?
Yep.
Planning and zoning.
Well, it's, no final decisions are being made tonight. It still has to go through a public hearing process, but at least planning and zoning will know the majority of the board, not all, prefers that configuration. So we have other items.
Yes, we do. So I'll return to a list of questions for you all. So I know we spent quite a bit of time looking at the Indian Gardens and Scout Cabin map. Does the board support how the parks and open space are divided into the zoning districts? So we have community parks, Big Ball, Blythe, Harrington, and Indian Gardens, neighborhood parks being Turtle Park and Patriots Park, Swan Pond as its own designation, separate from open space, which are all the areas listed there. Generally, does the board support categorizing the parks in that way? And then should any of them be moved into a different district?
I like those categories. I think that makes some most sense.
Manager, sorry, go
I
ahead. Trustee
personally
Mateo.
don't think Swan Pond needs to have its own category. I think it should be an open space. Am I going to fight with anybody on that? Nope. But I see them as being the same.
Manager Francis.
Just for one clarification, because Director Siren and I discussed this after the planning and zoning meeting. So anything that is under Cook County Forest Preserve jurisdiction, we can certainly say it's open space, but based on a state law, we cannot assert any authority. And so they could do whatever they want on their property. There is actually a carve-out in Illinois compiled statutes relative to Cook County Forest Preserve. So I just wanted to note that. So we can still zone it as such, but just creating that awareness for the village board.
Just returning to the issue of Swan Pond being separated out, is that because it's a managed natural area? Does it have a different category because it has a different ecological and, maintenance and management treatment?
It was more based on the use of the property. It was considered more of an active community use than, one example was, folks use it informally as a dog park. They'll let dogs run off leash in that area. I think people use it more actively than the other open space areas that are listed. For example, what I called First Avenue Woods, which I think is actually Zoo Woods, which is the Forest Preserve open property, or Miller Woods, which are largely intact, not used by folks. There's the pathway through Swan Pond. It's pretty actively used, but it wasn't felt that it was the same as a community park, and it was certainly too large to be a neighborhood park. So it didn't fit into any of the categories for Planning and Zoning Commission's reckoning, so they suggested a separate category just for Swan Pond.
Not sure how I feel about dogs being off leash at Swan Pond, but to me, it doesn't matter if it's part of the open space or, I don't think it.
I have a question on the triangles. I fully understand zoning those as open space when they're bigger, but down the street for me is a 70 square foot triangle. Now, that could be incorporated in the riverfront open space, but do we have small triangles like that would be a speck on the map and have its own zoning?
We do. I actually started to measure all the triangles before I tired. I believe the smallest one I found was 49 square feet.
Yeah.
So we've got a number of triangles and most of them contain, if anything, a pathway. So when we started this process, we included Scotswood Common and Long Common. We also discussed the Evelyn Triangle, which is, I think, the third largest triangle in the village that could potentially be developed for something. I think I heard that there was at some point some playground equipment in that triangle. Otherwise, the triangles, I would consider them as part of the parkway. Just as on the side of the road, we've got pathway and open space. It seems like the smaller parkway, the smaller triangles are just like that.
And that's what I was thinking too. I mean, they're more like parkways sometimes, and they're in the public right-of-way, which we don't have a zoning district for streets.
That's
or
exactly.
parkways. So I guess I would just suggest we look deeper into not zoning every single triangle separately, but only the more significant or larger ones.
I would suggest the two commons and possibly the Evelyn Triangle.
That brings up a good point, though, because the parkway, like, I'm thinking there's some really larger parkways, like, for example, between Nuttall, is that Nuttall? No, Northwood and Bartram is it's a big triangle. It's not the street, though. It's bordered on two sides by the street, and then the last side is the sidewalk. And that is like the #1 place for kids to play t-ball at Little League. I mean, wiffle ball, not t-ball, wiffle ball. But there's those kind of big, I'm also thinking of the one that's at Nuttall and Gatesby. There's a big, it's on the other side of the sidewalk, but Nuttall and Gatesby come in, and that's a big open green space kind of thing. I don't know, I mean, they're obviously part of what we would consider the parkway areas, but those are larger areas that are used in park-like ways I don't know how best to say that, but that might be, if we maybe look at a square footage sort of thing for some of these, because those are pretty significant, and I don't think we want, I would think we'd want to designate those as open space as well.
I'd be happy to do a rundown of all the parkways and the sizes. I'll finish my list. No.
I just thought I'd add to your list, Ann.
No. I'm already halfway done. I might as well finish.
Okay. I was just thinking that those are pretty significant green spaces. Those are pretty big.
Understood.
And I know that they're already designated as part of Parkway, but I don't know.
And is the purpose of having the open space designations to distinguish it from park status?
Like active status?
Yeah, I think the south of Turtle Park, that, not a triangle or whatever, it's kind of a triangle, it's a perfect example. Turtle Park is to be zoned for a neighborhood park, because that's what it is. But south of there is an area almost as big.
Right.
But that's open space, so neighbors will know, based on the zoning, that Turtle Park is a park. That area south of there is open space, and only a zoning hearing will change that.
Okay.
But if we do not include the majority of triangles, which I would agree with, nothing can be developed on them now, right? Just like I can't put a structure in my parkway.
That's the idea, is that it's part of the parkway. The village board, it's the village-owned property. It's the village's board discretion to develop the property. I think practically speaking, the use that I've seen in the parkways is a pathway or part of a crosswalk, and I've seen one bench so far in my survey, but that's the primary use of them.
And benches and like you said before, benches and walkways are not considered, benches and walkways are allowed in open space designation.
That's correct.
What about if benches are allowed, I don't know if I want to bring this, like our picnic table? I don't want to get into a whole picnicking discussion, but like is something like a picnic table allowed in those areas?
It's considered an accessory structure, just like a bench.
So it's not considered, okay.
So to summarize, I think what I'm hearing is that we need a little more nuance with the parkway triangles. There's some concern about Swan Pond having its own, but not necessarily an objection to it. Is that fair?
Okay.
It comes down to the use table.
Yeah.
Both the board and commission made distinctions between Swan Pond and open space in some uses. So we'll
really-
get to that.
Thank you so much, Trustee Mateo, for leading to my next point, which is the use tables. I'll bring those up. So here are the areas, and this was included in your packet, the areas where the Parks and Recreation Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission differed. So you can see starting with uses on the left, the zoning district. So remember, community parks would be Big Ball Park, Blythe. Neighborhood parks are Patriots and Turtle, Swan Pond, and then open space. And then the Parks and Recreation Board recommendation. Now, this isn't entirely even. They didn't start with two exact same use tables. So there's some notation where the Parks and Recreation Board didn't consider the use. And we collapsed some of the uses down and made them more general. So you can see the difference here between the two. I think generally we can say that everyone is in agreement here. It's just that the Parks and Rec Board actually said Gaga pits, sand volleyball, and special uses. Those got combined into, I believe those are athletic course and hardscape games. The Planning and Zoning Commission just considered all of them of a type and said they're all permitted in community parks. Same thing for, different for neighborhood parks. They said those types of uses are special use based on the size of the park and the characteristic that it's nearby residential. So instead of being a permitted use, which is what the Parks and Recreation Board, the Planning and Zoning Commission said, those are special use. And so the table goes through all of those differences between the Parks and Recreation Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'd be happy to elucidate any of their specific recommendations.
Can you just quickly remind us the difference between permitted and special use?
Happy to. Permitted use does not have to go through a public hearing.
Right.
Special use doesn't mean it's not permitted. It just means there's additional notification to the neighbors.
Okay. So do you want us to look at the ones where they're different? What are we?
So the differences are, all of these are differences. Everything
Right.
else is the same. So all of these are areas where if you wanted to weigh in tonight, I'd take that, recommendation
okay.
forward. If you just want to, this is just for your consideration to take a look at, for example, dog parks. So in neighborhood parks, the Parks and Recreation Board said they should be allowed as a special use. And remember, that would be Turtle Park and Patriots. Whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission said they shouldn't be permitted, parks are destinations for children, and the neighborhood parks are too small for a fenced dog area. That was their reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the two on those. And then the second page continues this, and this is all included in your packet.
It's hard to say. I don't know why they said not permitted. I wish I had more information.
I can run through them generally, and they're included in the meeting minutes in more detail, but I'd be happy to speak to anything specifically to the extent that I can remember the conversation about it. But generally, the thought was most of the uses that are listed, for example, as special use in neighborhood parks, as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Board, was recommended as not permitted by the Planning and Zoning Commission due to the size and scale of neighborhood parks. They thought that they were either inappropriately large or could be inappropriately disruptive, given the fact that Turtle Park and Patriots Park, which are two neighborhood parks, are very close to residential areas.
And I thought I remember reading in the minutes that the use list, if you will, was created off of the Barry Dunn plan, like things that people were talking about in the Barry Dunn plan.
That's where the Parks and
Okay.
Recreation Board pull all of the uses. So it's a very detailed list because they wanted to include everything that the community suggested from the survey.
Okay.
So does the board want to weigh in now on each individual use?
Not really.
That's what I kind of figured. I mean, I'll just give a general opinion. To me, I don't feel strongly like in this case. I mean, if I had to decide whether a batting cage would be in a neighborhood park or not, I'm unlikely to say that's appropriate. But whether we classify it as not permitted or special use, in reality, all that means is if the Parks and Rec Board come to us and they want to put a batting cage in a neighborhood park, they have to do a text amendment and a special use, which are concurrent and doesn't change the process anyway. So I guess having said that, I'd be, again, going back to what I said earlier, I'd be more conservative and not list these things. but also be clear to our Parks and Recreation Board that if they feel strongly about putting something like this in a particular park, they should let us know.
Can you go back to the other page? Something. Oh, yeah. For Swan Pond, I don't know. Maybe this is why they wanted to put Swan Pond as a separate thing, but I feel like Swan Pond, we don't want anything in Swan, right? Like, I mean, pretty much everything not permitted in Swan Pond. Is that, I mean, that would be my one note, that I thought that was pretty,
That's the one.
kind of pretty universal, that it's kind of a natural area. I don't think we want anything
I
going.
think that's the one case where planning and zoning was less conservative than Parks and Rec Board. In all other instances, planning and zoning was more restrictive.
Yeah.
So background for people who didn't read the agenda, this has been hero's work for the past few years, starting from nothing. Director Siren has done a lot of work developing the maps, the tables, the definitions. Where I'm getting at is you first worked with Parks and Rec Board, had 2 meetings, maybe 3, and then it went to planning and zoning. So Parks and Rec got it first, planning and zoning. It hasn't gone back to Parks and Rec. So it could be that that board would view things differently now that there have been more conversations, more meetings, more information to chew on. So I would suggest that this go back to the board for feedback before we go through each item here.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Is that a consensus?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So the other 2 questions are regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation that they review site plans for park and open space projects. That would include improvements such as pathways. So that would be, currently the Planning and Zoning Commission reviews site plans for multifamily residential and commercial projects. They review the site plan, they provide a recommendation to the village board who ultimately approves it. This would be the same process as we go through only for parks. So they recommended being included in that process. I want to make sure the village board give you that feedback and see if you had a position on that.
So in other words, even if it's a permitted use in that district, Planning and Zoning Commission is saying they still want it to come through them.
That's correct. And they wanted a level of detail on those projects, so down to pathways.
I would be in favor of that.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I would be in favor of that. I think it makes sense.
But it would not include signage, right? Because signs are not included here.
They're not included. We could always change that, though.
Why is it needed? I guess is my question.
Why is there a review needed?
Yeah, why, I mean, like, because, I mean, usually what the board will decide and say, oh, we want planning and zoning to weigh in, or we want preservation to weigh in, we want somebody else to weigh in. Why in this particular instance would we say another board has to weigh in on what this board is doing?
Planning and Zoning Commission felt that the parks improvements were under the purview of the planning and zoning generally of the village, the land use of the village, so that they felt that that was appropriate for them to review.
But up until now, it hasn't been?
There's no process currently.
Right. Okay.
So we currently have a process of site plan review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it applies just in the business districts, is that right? And
It's the multifamily, and that can mean
Multifamily.
residential districts and then non-residential.
okay. So currently, if you're building a new building, like a parking lot on Quincy.
Yes.
Or Quincy, even though it's a permitted use, by right, property owner has the right to build that. They still have to go through our Planning and Zoning Commission. They review the site plan. I've never been a fan of that in this village or any other village because it's a by right development. Occasionally, there may be value added through that process, but I think it's very rare. And even then, I think that value added can be done by our staff. And it just adds 2 months, 2 or 3 months to a process where someone should be able to just come in and get a permit and do their thing.
Well, that's a larger question than what's on the table right now, right?
Well, but it informs the question, though. I mean, and to Trustee Costa's point, what's the point? It's permitted. They have standards they have to follow. What's the value added of having planning and zoning review it when they're already complying with the standards planning and zoning has established? I mean, it's not appropriate to take a site plan that you're reviewing and say, oh, instead of 10 units, just do 6 units. We're only going to approve it at 6 units, yet the 10 units is permitted. They can't do that. So they could try, but...
So what if it's a special use development?
Well, then that has site plan review inherent in the process because there's already a public hearing. But doesn't apply to single-family residential, but it's a similar circumstance. You're building a new home, I have to go through planning and zoning, even though it meets all the setbacks and the building height and the floor area and impervious surface, it meets all codes, yet I still have to go through a zoning hearing, or not a hearing, but a zoning review by another public body.
I don't remember.
I agree. I hadn't really thought it like that. If they are already following the guidelines, with width and materials, and staff would make sure that that's gonna happen, then we don't need to.
And in this case, when we're talking about public property, to me, it's even more unnecessary because the community already has its eyes on it all over the place. Parks and Rec Board, Village Board, and again, it's complying with the zoning, so.
And we would have to incur the fees associated. I mean, they're nominal, but.
We could
because
pay,
don't have-
we could pay ourselves.
I was gonna say, we could pay ourselves, but, but there's nobody else to pay it, I guess. They're small fees, but there's nobody else to pay it.
Bob's expensive. Sorry, I said Bob's expensive.
I won't argue that point. So, site plan review for permitted uses, permitted improvements, or not?
I was going to ask, I don't remember this part of their discussion. Do you have a sense for why they wanted to specifically call for this?
I think they felt it was consistent with the site plan review for multifamily and non-residential.
I just think, from a perspective of the pathways being called out in the question, that when a development, or the development of a site is going to involve, putting in new concrete and, potentially hooking it up with sidewalks and, proposed crosswalks and things like that, that the review could be helpful. But I suppose the board would always have the discretion to identify those issues and ask that a particular matter be sent to planning and zoning on a case-by-case basis also.
Yeah.
So if most people feel strongly that in most instances it wouldn't be necessary, I think in the instances where you're talking about, potential new concrete being poured, new pedestrian or cycling paths and access, we just have to remember to keep it in mind and remember to send it to them.
On a case-by-case basis, we could decide that, so I don't want a mandatory if we decide we want to do it.
Okay, so
Or whoever the board is at that time.
eliminate the required site plan review for permitted improvements. Is that the consensus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And the last question, does the board support establishing maximum impervious surface and building coverage limits on a park-by-park basis at levels slightly above the existing coverage? So what that means is in the zoning code currently, for each zoning district, there is a limit of the amount of impervious surface coverage you can have in property that's surface water doesn't go through, so asphalt, roofs. And there's also a building coverage limit. Building coverage includes everything that is taller than 1 foot. So there's a building coverage limit for that zoning district, and then there's an impervious surface coverage for that zoning district. Now that we're establishing zoning districts, we need to decide, we can decide not to have those for the parks. It would be slightly unusual not to have them, but that's an option. What I presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission was a table showing by the community parks what the estimated park sizes, estimated impervious surface coverage, and estimated building coverage. I say estimated very clearly because we do not have surveys for most of these areas. So I did my best. When you think of building coverage, for example, and it might strike you that Harrington Park is listed as 12,000 square feet. Where are the buildings? This is the dugouts that we have. So based on those estimations, I calculated an impervious surface coverage percentage because it's based on percent for each zoning district. So currently in Blythe Park, my estimation is that 14% of the park is covered with impervious surface. The courts you might be thinking of. Big Ball Park is 1%, dugouts, Harrington Park 8%, Indian Gardens 3%. And moving down to the neighborhood parks, we've got 9%, 2%. And Swan Pond, we've got a nice pathway there that takes about 5% of the land approximately. Most of the other open space is either negligible or Guthrie Park has 3% coverage. First Avenue Woods has a parking lot. So that raises Zoo Woods raises the impervious surface coverage. So based on those percentages, I presented that to the Planning and Zoning Commissions and asked how they would like to establish impervious surface coverage and building coverage standards for the parks. And their response was, keep everything effectively as it is. So each park would have an existing estimated impervious surface coverage percentage and building coverage percentage, and anything above a small change in that would trigger a requirement for a variation. A variation, just like a special use, is a public hearing. You would post signs, send letters to neighboring property owners. They could come in and say, actually, you're adding a big court to Big Ball Field, for example, a big pickleball court. So that would raise the impervious surface coverage. That requires a public hearing, and that would go before the Planning and Zoning Commission with final decision by the village board. So that was their recommendation. I wanted to see what the village board has.
Would all of those improvements already require zoning, a zoning hearing based on what we previously talked about for the improvements?
So all of the existing, what we would do is setting the level at existing. So you wouldn't be required to do any new changes.
No, I'm just saying, like, you couldn't add a pickleball court at Big Ball Park, let's say. You couldn't, without it going through zoning.
That's without a variation.
Right, but.
Which goes before Planning and Zoning Commission.
Wouldn't we just be doubling up on saying that, my question is this redundant based on already zoning the different parks for active and passive and stuff, recreation?
It depends on the use.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's true.
So Big Ball Park, great example, has more permitted uses. For example, pickleball court could be permitted use, so you could not have the special use process, the public hearing. But if you wanted to go with this model and increase that impervious surface, you would require a variation.
Got it. Yep.
Another public
Yep.
hearing.
I forgot about that. Yep.
Other
I'm in
trustees,
favor
any
of the
thoughts?
recommendation.
I'm sorry.
I just said I'm in favor of the planning and zoning recommendation. I think it makes a lot of sense.
So what you're saying is it's not like you would just say 15% across the board because, if you're already at 1%, jumping to 15 is quite a jump. So you would have a different standard for each of these based on where they are right now. So like if it's at 8% right now, maybe you move it to 10%.
Some small improvement.
Maybe,
increase.
maybe you, okay.
To allow for a reconfiguration of a pathway, for example.
Right. That makes sense.
I am supportive of the concept that planning and zoning is recommending, but it absolutely should not be a variation. It should be a special use, because increasing impervious coverage could never meet the standards or rarely meet the standards for a variation. It's the same process. I'm just being the planner in me is, you know. So I would say any increase over those numbers would be a special use. Public hearing, same process.
I realize there's more staff work involved, but I think I prefer having them park-specific, given how much variation we currently have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have consensus on that one too then.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
because you
cons-
don't want, I mean, big ballparks at 1%, you don't want to all of a sudden be like, we'll go 10%.
So consensus on the numbers recommended by planning and zoning, knowing, and also adding that they could, a special use would be available for someone who wants to, or if the park board wants to propose an increase. Manager Francis.
I just may make one comment. I was actually just typing an email to Director Siren to speak with Director Malchiotti about projects that we have in the CIP that are coming up to make sure that those are anticipated as part of the impervious surface coverage, because it's things that have already been in the queue that we've already started talking about. So we don't want to create more work for staff and commissions if we can avoid it.
Okay,
Makes sense?
great. That was the last of my questions, and I just wanted to follow up, and please feel free to revise this if you think this needs to go back before the Parks and Recreation Board before moving to these other commissions. But potential next steps would be taking this to the Landscape Advisory Commission, the Preservation Commission, with a board update. And our intention was, after all those reviews, depending on the time frame can be different, once the reviews are complete, to hold actually a series of public hearings, just of the amount of notification that will be required. So we want to kind of break down having folks come into a public meeting to have comments based on the geography of the village. So we would give you a more robust, or more detailed, schedule for public hearings once we get closer to that date. But I'd appreciate any input that you have on next steps.
I think we just wanted to add that bounce back to Parks and Rec Board.
Well, that was, do we? I mean, this is a long process. It's going to continue to be a long process. Do we want to take the time and have it go to Parks and Rec before it goes to Landscape and Preservation?
When's the next Parks and Recreation meeting?
The next one's
Monday.
Monday. The one following is July 27th.
Well, it could simultaneously bounce to Landscape and Parks and Rec, couldn't it?
The use table troubles me. If I were a commissioner and I'm reviewing something that ultimately is going to get completely revised and I have to review it again, I might think that was not the best use of our time. I don't know that it would be reviewed.
I was going to say the next LEC following Parks and Rec is August 11th, which would still be before preservation.
Only gives them 2 days.
That's true. Gives Ann.
Manager Francis.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jessica.
If I may make a suggestion that we just push out the schedule a little bit, because we have other things that are also in the queue at the moment, and we've lived without zoning in our parks, so just being thoughtful and taking our time and making sure that we get the Parks and Rec Board, and that Ann doesn't have to rally to try to compile feedback in less than 24 hours.
36 hours, no?
I think that would be helpful, and then we would still target to complete these items by the end of the year or early next year.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I know Rush.
Can we have that tree data included by the time it gets to the Landscape Advisory Commission?
Actually, Clerk Stenzel has already started pulling it.
Good job, Emily.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else from the board? Thank you, Director Siren. Tremendous job. A lot of work, but it's very important for this village.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, an ordinance amending Section 1011-4 of the Village Code relating to decks and building coverage. Director Siren.
Thank you so much. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance to exclude uncovered decks and their stairs from building coverage up to the first 250 square feet or 4% of the lot area, whichever is greater. So property owners, especially those on smaller lots, can build a reasonable deck without a variation, while the cap prevents excessive deck coverage on a lot. Sure. So we'd be looking for a motion for approval. That's our recommendation.
We discussed it before, so I'm ready to make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Got it.
Any discussion on the motion? Any public comment? No, there's not.
Going once, going twice.
Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Marshallska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher.
Aye.
Trustee Cost.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Ordinance is approved, and an ordinance amending the village code and the village code relating to mobile food units and amending the fee schedule for the village of Riverside. Director Cyrus, sorry.
Thank you. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance to define where mobile food units can operate, providing operating standards, including allowing bicycle and similar conveyances as mobile food units, and allowing the sale of ice cream and frozen desserts from stationary mobile food units.
Questions, comments?
We discussed before. Again, I'm fine with this, so I'll make the motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion is second. No public comment. Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Marshallska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher.
Aye.
Trustee Cost.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
The ordinance is approved. If there's no objection from the village board, I would like to suggest that we table the update on trolley shelter signs.
No objection here.
No urgency to that, and it's our own little thing, it can wait. So, and we do have a closed session tonight,
Yes.
so, do we need a motion on that, or?
What about birds?
We have the birds.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
Next page.
we already did, do we have a motion on the trolley shelter signs?
Motion
Or
to
do
table
we
it?
need to, motion to table it?
It's an update. It's not really, we're not voting on
No,
anything.
we don't need a motion, right? Okay.
Consensus.
So we're going to pass over that, but we go back now to,
Birds.
Here it is.
I don't know. Birds.
Oh,
New business.
right, it's new business.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's getting late.
But I'm still in the right order.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were telling me I was going out of order. Okay, new business, a resolution of the Village of Riverside authorizing and approving the submission of an application for Bird City, Illinois. Clerk Stenzel.
This resolution has been modified from the original one posted in the packet. The title and the purpose of the resolution has not changed. Copy of the new resolution was placed at your seat. The village board identified Bird City designation as a goal during strategic planning, and staff has worked with Trustee Mateo to pursue this designation. The board approved a World Migratory Bird Day proclamation as well as celebrated World Migratory Bird Day along with Global Big Day. The support of Trustee Mateo as well as many local birders have led to the creation of the Riverside Bird Guide. The application was included in the packet materials. I do just want to note that for the application, there were many requirements and action categories that we could select from, but also many of those the village was already eligible to select from. This is a testament to the village's long-term and ongoing commitment to sustainability and more specifically bird conservation and steps to being a bird-friendly community that made this designation a possibility. The resolution is needed to submit the application.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
It's very exciting.
Yeah. A lot of residents have contributed to this, but Trustee Mateo has generally led that process, so thank you. Any further discussion? Comments? You want to make a motion, Trustee
Move to
Mateo?
accept the resolution.
Second.
Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Marshallska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher.
Aye.
Trustee Cost.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
The board does have a need for an executive session this evening to discuss the setting of a price for sale or lease of village property. The board will not reconvene and no final action will take place. I would ask for a motion and second to adjourn to executive
So
session.
moved.
Second.
Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Marshallska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher.
Aye.
Trustee Cost.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
We are adjourned at